Okay, so what we said, it's very important, the relationship between human and universe, in the sense that once a human started to develop and to investigate and to contemplate and to ponder in science of universe, looking here and there, asking the questions, this is the right path and way which definitely will lead him to believe in Allah, to believe in the Creator. If, of course, if he is going without any sort of bias, because some people, they are not neutral, they are not objective, they have certain set of mind in their background, and based on that, they are looking at anything else around them from that perspective. If this is the case, then for sure, this path will definitely mislead you. But in the case which we are talking about, like it has been presented in the Quran, the relationship between universe and human supposed to lead to the existence of Allah, the Creator, and to believe in Him. Why? Because as we said, a human will start asking, investigating, thinking, what is behind, what is the purpose of this universe, what is the purpose of this creation, exactly as the Prophet before Islam was doing in Cave Hira. So this is the most mentioned topic in Quran. Nothing mentioned more than that at all. Focusing, insisting on using your sense and using your mental capabilities. Why this is important in Quran? Because without using our mental capabilities, we will never reach there. Reach what? Reach the truth. Reach the truth in the sense that the Quran again is protecting our freedom of choices. So our choices, which will come in the next step, after investigating, after thinking, after observing, after asking questions, our choices supposed to be responsible in the sense that whatever we choose, whatever we decide to do, we have to bear in mind that we are responsible for our choices. And that's it. This is the message of the Quran. Within this environment of freedom, environment of respecting human mental capabilities, for sure, we may say that this is the real foundation of any civilization, not only Islamic civilization. Why? Because we mentioned from the early beginning, concept of civilization in Quran, in Islam, is not limited to what human produce in reality, like building high towers or being advanced in technology, etc., etc. Because all these results and outcomes are just a few aspects of civilization. Then what are the other perspectives of civilization? Insisting on humanity. How a human being can actually fulfill his existence, his being. Because without this fulfillment, he would never be or reach the level of humanity as the Quran is telling us. So we see some other components in the Islamic civilization. For example, as we mentioned at the end of our class last time, we see focus on and emphasize on spirituality and morality. Without these two, civilization won't be complete. And from this perspective, we can compare between Islamic civilization and Western civilization or any other civilization. We see lack of spirituality. If you compare it today, for example, to our Western or contemporary civilization, we do witness lack of spirituality. Unfortunately, many people today, recently, they think that they can survive without fulfilling their spiritual needs. While when the Quran is introducing the concept of civilization, is giving the whole set, the whole package. Spirituality is part of it. Why spirituality is part of it? Because it has been introduced by whom? By the Creator, who is all-knowing. And because He is the Creator, created us as human beings, definitely He knows that our needs are not limited to physical needs only or materialistic needs only. So we need spiritual aspects as well in our life? Yes. That's why we see Islamic civilization insisting on spiritual needs as well. Hundreds of books written by Muslim scholars on spirituality, on purification of soul. Not in such an idealistic way or perspective that no one can reach, or that actually promote or encouraging people to get rid of life or of the other materialistic needs, or forget about our daily life. Definitely. This is not an Islamic approach. Then what is the right approach, or what is the right Islamic approach in focusing or in spirituality? It is the balance, based on balance. So human beings supposed to adopt balance in their life, in their needs as well. So they enjoy life, yes, according to the Quranic teachings, if they believe in these teachings. At the same time, they would never forget that there is another thing, spirit or soul, which they have to take care of it. Otherwise, they will have imbalance in their life. And that's why we see in many contemporary societies, they are advanced, they have everything in life, everything. Level of life is quite, and income is quite high. Despite of that, we have rate of suicide, we have high rate of crimes, etc., etc. Problems, social problems. That doesn't mean that Muslim societies are far from this. Definitely not. Why? Because as we again and again mentioned, unfortunately, many Muslim societies today are quite far from the pure and real Islamic teachings. So we see same problems at different levels. But again, it's not because they are actually Muslims. No. It's simply because they have this imbalance in their life. So that's one part of Islamic civilization. The other important part, as I said, morality. And again, we see hundreds of books talking about moral and values. Talking about moral values in the sense that to be civilized, it means that you need to have certain standards of morals and values. So again, as you can see, civilization in Islam is taking a different path in that sense, insisting on morality, telling people that in order you be powerful or you have certain rates, high rates in level of life or quality of life, it doesn't mean that you have to be immoral or you just forget about your morals or your values. You have to, of course, be adopting all the time to these values. And the reflection of these values will be, of course, apparent in your dealing or in your behavior or in even your relations with people around you and outside the Muslim society as well. Is this clear? Today, inshallah, we will move to something else in Islamic civilization after we finished all these fundamental principles in Islamic civilization. As we mentioned last time, we have many principles in Islamic civilization which were actually adopted since the early message of the Quran, from the beginning. Because some people may ask and argue, if this is the case, can we say that during the time of the Prophet and the early companions as well, after his death, do we see civilization? When we talk about golden age of civilization, Muslim civilization, we usually talk about Umayyad Caliphate during the Umayyad age, the Abbasid Caliphate, yes, which is around 150 and over that after the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So does this mean that the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not build the Islamic civilization? Did not participate in building Islamic civilization? We see all big names of scholars and scientists, Muslim scientists, after 150 years or above, sometimes 200, 300, 2 centuries after his death, the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him. How can we explain this? As I said before, building foundation is the most important stage, not only in building civilization, in any building. Building this hall, for example, it's not just like that. It did not come in one day just like that and it has been built. No. What about the foundation? It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and actually it is the most important and influential part in building. So what was happening during the time of the Prophet and his companions, the early age, was the foundation. They were building the foundation of Islamic civilization. Later on, what we witnessed, names, inventions, contributions of Muslim scientists are the result, the outcome of this foundation. As a matter of fact, without that solid foundation, we would never see or witness such contributions at all. This is real. Without that solid foundation, which has been built by the Prophet, peace be upon him, when he was following the Quranic teachings, we won't see all these contributions. So this foundation which we mentioned about reasoning, about scientific methods, about promoting scientific methods and methodology and research, empirical research in the Quran, meant to build this civilization. Besides something else, we all know that building civilization takes a lot. Unlike destroying civilization, destruction takes seconds. Building takes years, and sometimes more than years. This is the point. So what he was doing at that time, building the foundation. How did he do that? Application of all these instructions and details. Now let us today move to something else. Move to something which is a quite recent concept. We may say that recently people started to think about, or even to mention it. Environment. Environment and the protection of environment. This is, we may say, it's a quite recent concept. Besides the terms, of course, related to it. It was not actually something related to our contemporary civilization. Once you start to read the Quran, like in page 153, 154 in your textbook, you see ayat, verses in the Quran, talking about the responsibility of a human being in preserving environment. Talking about the concept of being green. Imagine at that early age. And we were, just as we said before, Arabia at that time was passing through ignorance age. People, or majority of people, were illiterate and ignorant by different means. And at that time, the Quran is approaching people and telling them to preserve environment? Yes. Why? Because this is again to build the foundation. And never forget, the concept of preserving environment in the Quran comes from the relationship between a human and environment. I mentioned last time a term. I said, in Islam, it's not acceptable to use the term master of universe. Because a human is not the master of universe at all. Then what is the universe for him? We can see that how everything, nature, is actually for his service, devoted for his service. But by the order and the command of whom? Of a human being, or the creator who created the universe and the human being. Remember the first verses in the Quran. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Read in the name of your Lord who created you and the universe. So the relationship between human and universe is not master and slave. No. What is the difference? If a human looking at the universe as if it is just to serve his own desires, which have no direction, correct direction, or certain direction, then for sure we will have certain mischief and corruption as we can witness today. You can see today, and we witness many aspects and many pictures of abusing nature, if we may say, abusing the universe. Despite the fact that we do claim that we are advanced and we are developed and we, but it's the matter of dealing with things, isn't it? Dumping, of course, tons of nuclear waste and many other problems. This is one of the biggest problems today in the world, in the entire world. Comes because of what? Comes because of unclear relationship between we and universe, between us as humans. We people are not acting according to what we're supposed to. Then what we're supposed to do? Use, but never abuse. But today, what is happening, what is the language, what is the law? Abuse, while they are used. This is the point. So the Quran is showing people in these verses, imagine, one of verses and 2 or 3 sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, talking about what? Talking about pollution. Pollution. Wood in water, in air, in everything. Yes, in water. One of sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, never waste or throw waste in water. Why? Preserve water from what? Pollution. Yes, he did not use the term. Yes, he did not say it directly, but that was what he was actually asking people to do. Something else, not to waste water when you are making wudu. Muslims, in worshipping or preparing for prayer, they need to use water. Even if you had enough supply for water, never waste water. Preserving environment. This is one of the most important aspects in preserving environment. So you can see. That's why we see many ayat in Surah Nahl, for example. It is who has made the sea subservient to his laws, so that you might eat a fresh meat from it and take from it gems which you may wear. What does this mean? It means Allah is reminding us through these verses and ayat. When we are used, we have never to forget. We should never forget who is the one who is providing us with all these resources. And of course, logically, if you are using his resources, then you're supposed to act according to his laws, isn't it? This is his resources. He is the one who is providing us with it. So when you act, when you use according to his, just like, when we go to hotel or to any place, you read the instruction. Yes, you need to see. This is not allowed, this is allowed, this is not allowed, isn't it? It's their right. And no one would argue about that. Why? Because this is the right of the one who actually is making this a place for me, providing me with all these facilities. I remember when I came to this hall, they told me certain instructions. Don't let students do this, leave a microphone here, there. It's their own right. Because I am using these facilities, I have to be responsible for keeping them in the right place, for the right use. It's very, very fair, quite fair. Same thing can be said when it comes to these Quranic verses. Why we see many verses in the Quran, this is a very important question, talking about sea, talking about natural resources, and the responsibility of a human being to preserve them. This is part of faith, part of the deal, part of the assignment. Which deal? Deal between a human and Creator. He is providing us with all these resources, and in return, we have to preserve them and use them according to His laws and instructions. So one of the instructions, for example, never throw waste in sea. And today, as you can see, how we are suffering, people are suffering, humanity is suffering. Many problems related to pollution in sea. Because of what? Because of the language of abuse. Language of abuse because of what? You have the power, you can abuse. You don't have, this is something else. In Quran, it's the opposite. You have the power, you shouldn't abuse. You see the point here? This is one of the major differences between Islamic civilization and any other human civilization. Imagine, in the Quran, many ayat and many sayings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, talking about the beauty of earth. People may say, what is this? Is this a religion or a book of nature or what? As a matter of fact, Quran is a book of nature. In the sense that Quran is showing us how to look at nature and to ponder and let this relationship between me and nature lead me to the right way of Allah or the Creator, to Allah. The earth is beautiful and green. Allah made you its regions so that He may try you in respect of your actions. Imagine? Yes. So this is Islamic civilization. All these concepts, for the first time in human history, have been introduced in Arabia. Arabia, as we said, we're passing through a difficult time. Within this difficult age of ignorance, Quran is introducing all these civilizational concepts, the most advanced civilizational concepts. You imagine? This is civilization, isn't it? So yes, we did not see at that time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, building high towers. No, see a very humble life, living in tents, living in simple environment, but in high, respected, moral environment, based on values. And this is the real civilization. So the real concept of civilization is not to live in a high tower. This could be sometimes misleading. I am not asking people to leave their homes and luxurious homes and live in tents. No. just like people doing during Sahir or Takhir. No, camping. No, I'm not doing any promotion for camping. I'm just saying that it's just the matter of understanding what is the real meaning of civilization here. So to be civilized, not necessarily you need to wear this branded t-shirt or certain things or certain code to say that I am civilized. To be civilized, you need to reflect on certain morals and values, and that's what the Quran is doing. So, as we can see in page 156, 155, many examples talking about all these aspects of civilization. Again and again, discovering laws of nature, key to building civilization on earth. How we are going to discover all these laws? Observation. That's why we see, again, one of the most important mentioned topics in the Quran, observation. Observation. Observation is one of the, of course, as you all know, highest levels of what? Experiment, empirical research. You can't do any research or going into science unless you have these steps. So steps are leading us to go side by side with civilization. And that's what the Quran is doing. One of examples mentioned by some Orientalists about Ibn al-Haytham. Ibn al-Haytham was one of the well-known scholars, Muslim scholars in science. He was talking about what? Scientific knowledge. He was saying in his books to look into its principles, premises, beginning our research with an inspection of things that exist and a survey of the conditions of visible objects. He's a Muslim scientist. And then later on he mentioned that he is deducing this in different places in his book from the Quran. Many people, many Muslims today, when they look at the Quran, as I said before, they look at the Quran as a book of blessing. Book of getting barakah, blessing. That's it. Or sometimes curing our illness. Fine, it's okay. But this is not the real purpose of the Quran. What is the real purpose of the Quran? Guiding. It's a book of guidance in all aspects of life, And you have to find out how. So this Ibn al-Haytham, a Muslim scholar, his job is investigating, finding out, collecting data, if we may say. So how he is using the Quran as a guideline here? He is saying that in his writings. Quran was actually encouraging me and inspiring me to look, to think, to investigate, to ask, to collect, and to make my decision and my results based on facts. And this is the scientific method. Supposed to be based on facts. You remember when we mentioned that? Not on attitudes, not on opinions, facts. And how you actually deal with facts? Facts supposed to be based on observation again and experiments. See how the Quran was motivating Muslims to find out and to discover all these laws of the universe. That's why we see a lot of verses, a lot of sayings of the Prophet, and that's why do we see many Western thinkers as well looking at the Islamic civilization as a gift, because it has not been kept for Muslims only. It has been actually introduced to all people and to all humanity. This is the point. Many of the characteristics of Islamic methodology, we found them in the Quran. One of things which are very important, plagiarism. You know plagiarism? Plagiarism Types, we have different types, of course, of plagiarism. Sometimes copying and pasting without mentioning or referring to the real author or whatever is produce it and introduce it as if it's my job, my work. Simply. This is a quite simple type of plagiarism, but this is the meaning, the real meaning of it. What about the Quran? Quran, at that age, imagine, teaching people to be far from concept of a plagiarism. When you actually quote someone, you need to refer to the author. See the Quran, for example, in Surah Saba, chapter Saba. Surah Saba, the Quran is referring to the queen of Saba, Balqis, mentioning name of author. She said a statement. She said we have to avoid war with the real powers, the power of Sulaiman, King Sulaiman at that time. That was the topic. And the Quran was referring to it, mentioning the name of author, and telling that yes, this is true. It's quite basic, but it needs what? Reflection, thinking, fighting against plagiarism. Even when it comes to things which the Quran disagree about, like mentioning many people talking about that Allah is not one, Allah is 2, 3, 4, more than one, helping him creating this nature or this world. The Quran again is mentioning all these sayings exactly as they said, despite the fact that the Quran, of course, disagreeing with this and rejecting these concepts. But when it comes to saying, referring, quoting, you have to mention it as it is. You see how the Quran is teaching us to overcome this problem of plagiarism. Something else, being honest in general. Being honest for sure is one of the most important things and factors behind fighting plagiarism. Because no matter what you do, even if it's quite simple, you need to be honest in producing it. See how the Quran, in that sense, as if we are not actually talking about a book of religion, isn't it? Is it just a religious book? It's not. It's a book of life. It's a book of knowledge. It's a book of science. It's a book of history. It's a book which actually guideline and guiding us. It's a guideline, guiding us in every aspect of life. So Muslims, they absorbed when they were connected, strongly connected to the Quran, really related to the Quran, quite close to the Quran, aware of the message of the Quran, not necessarily in details, but as we, in that sense which we mentioned, they, of course, motivated and inspired with all these Quranic concepts, reflected on them, and made all these concepts real. And these are the most important components of civilization. You can't actually say that to someone who's actually in his research, in his writing, in his reading, using plagiarism every time, in every topic, in every assignment, and you can say that he is civilized, even if he is wearing one of the most famous branded t-shirts. It's not t-shirts which make us advanced, not cars which we drive, not homes which we live in, but values and morals. See you next time, inshallah.